yes, I'm talented, I'm talented, yes, I'm talented, I'm talented, yes, I'm talented, I'm talented, yes, I'm gifted. Yes, I'm talented, I'm talented, yes, I'm talented, I'm talented, yes, I'm talented, I'm talented, yes, I'm gifted.
Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can see you. How lovely you look with glasses too.
I can't see you though.
How come? Let me see.
I think you have to just turn on the video on the bottom left.
That's it. You know what?
Yeah.
Let's see.
There you go.
Oh, there, yes. And I can see me too up top. My God, I'm so old. I got so old.
Oh,
when I knew you, I was a puppy when you were a student. You know?
How are you? It's great to see you.
Same here. You know, my response for years was always the same. Yeah, people say, "How are you?" I said, "Well, I'm my usual magnificent self." You know, why should I change the winning formula? You know?
Yeah, I love that. See, that's the positive attitude I have always loved about you.
Well, you know, I also say this too. I don't know if you can see my shirt. Can you see my shirt?
Yeah.
Because I wear all these loud aloha shirts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say to people, you know, like, first of all, when they say, well, how come you wear all these loud aloha shirts? I said, well, first of all, life's too short to live it without color, you know?
Yes.
And of course, my black students loved that when they said that. And then, teaching black lit, they used to get a big kick. And then the other part of it is that life's too short to live it without a sense of humor, man. If you're not having some yucks while you're here, then why bother, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like, having you as one of my teachers was like life-changing. And I've always said that to like everybody. That's
so nice of you to say that, really. It really is nice. I really appreciate that. I think that one of the things that I miss about not teaching is the fact that, you know, I think I did have a good influence on a lot of young people.
A lot. I think you had a lot of huge influence on a lot of them.
I think so. And at a time when, because I remember how I was when I was a senior and junior in high school, you know, we were all trying to find out who we were. And, you know, we were testing certain things out. And adults were telling us, don't do this and don't be that. And I would go, well, yeah, but I don't feel that. You know what I mean? And so I was pretty much saying, you know what, it's okay for you guys to be what you want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to tell you or show you that there's a way you can be, and you could be yourself, but you don't have to be miserable about it. You know, you don't have to do what other people tell you as long as you're trying to do the right thing, you know?
Yeah.
So it was fun like that, you know? But so let me ask you a question. Did you have anything you really wanted to ask me about on this like podcast?
Well, the podcast is just going to be like a gallery of conversations and like advice that you would give to people, your story. It's very open-ended, and I would love to like continue these conversations and maybe have them like often or weekly and like get little tidbits of like, you know, just anything you want to talk about, because I feel like you have a plethora of things I feel like you would want to.
Well, you know, it's funny. I right now my big thing is I'm president of the board of trustees of my local public library. Okay, I've been so for 16 years now, and I have they give you, we have 5-year terms. So I'm in the beginning of my 4th 5-year term.
Wow.
I didn't want to do it. I'm a term limit. Politically, I want term limits. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to do more than 2, which would have meant 10 years, but nobody was coming to the fore.
Yeah.
And the library directors said, look, you're a guy who's been about books your whole life. You taught English at the high school level and the university level at Stony Brook and St. Joseph's College. And you're the right guy for the job because you care about books. You're a First Amendment geek. I'm all about the First Amendment.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, nobody was going to do it. And so we have a really good working relationship. And then, of course, and I also was doing book discussions monthly.
Yeah.
For 15 of those 16 years.
Yeah.
And I had to stop them because of the pandemic, because I was getting anywhere from, I would say, 7 to 15 people coming a month for the book discussions.
Yeah.
And most of them were fairly elderly. Okay.
Yeah.
So I really had to worry about them, and I also had to worry about myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I haven't done them, and everybody now at the library, our library had a mask mandate before the state required one, and we had to reinstitute it 2 weeks. What was it? A few weeks ago, because it was just getting more dangerous. And of course, every time we turn around, like this morning again, the virus on Long Island is getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
So, but what I was going to say was that compared to the other trustees, I'm like a wild man because my background was so different. Okay. Yeah. So like when I go to my meetings, I'm wearing wild aloha shirts, white brim hats, I just don't look like the old, like
like all the other ones.
Yeah, I really don't. And so, but I spent most of my time as a youth. I started with hiking and camping when I was in the Boy Scouts. Then I got into surfing when I was 15, and I surfed from 15 to like 55.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I used to surf every day. From probably from when I was 15 to I would say almost my mid-20s. I would surf every day for like 20 years.
So who taught you how to surf? And
I was for you? That's a great story. My neighbors across the street were lifeguards. One was at Jones Beach, Field 9. The other one was at Gilgo Beach. And he was underage. He lied about his age. He was only 16. He was supposed to be at least 18. But they were wonderful ocean swimmers. I mean, swimming in the ocean is very different from swimming in the pool.
Yeah, totally. Right?
And so they taught me how to be a better ocean swimmer. So I always had body surf from the kiss. That time I was, actually 13, 14. And then I used to borrow their surfboards. And of course, and that's how I did. And so while they were up on the stand, looking to save lives, I was out there surfing.
You took their surfboards and went in.
Yeah. And I'm surfing my buns off. I'm having a great time. Yeah. And of course, I was there because I couldn't drive at that time. I was there 8 hours. Okay.
Wow.
So,
you had to wait for them probably, right?
Well, I'm sorry?
You had to wait for them for a ride home?
Yeah. They took me there and they took me back, and my parents loved them. They trusted them implicitly. They were good. They were good men, especially the older one. I guess he was about 4 or 5. He just passed away 2 years ago. So they trusted my being with them. They were good young men. They were bright. They were good students, excellent athletes. So I was very, very lucky. And with that, so the surfing, and then of course, when I got to be teaching and I had some bucks of my own, I got my horse. And so I'd always wanted a horse. I loved horses from the time I knew what a horse was. Yeah. So now if I wasn't surfing, I was riding, I had a running quarter horse stallion. Okay. It was what a beautiful animal. I'll have to show you
pictures. To send me a photo so I can add it into the podcast video.
Yeah, I absolutely will do that. Okay. So the bottom line was, so that was my life. It was surfing and horses for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then of course, when I met my wife, my present wife, she never asked me to sell my horse, but I had him 10 years at that point.
Yeah. And
I kind of felt that it was time anyway for other reasons, but in her dictionary, horse rhymes with divorce. Okay. So, and I said, hey, look, I did say, I've always said it to people. My first wife, who was a sweet girl.
Yeah.
And it was my fault. She was too young and this and that. Yeah. But anyway, and but when to show you what kind of an idiot husband I was in it was my late 20s, is that when my horse needed a winter blanket, a winter coat, and she needed a winter coat, guess who got the winter coat?
The horse.
Absolutely. So I mean, I was a total moron as a husband. Total, because
I guess then you didn't know, like, happy wife, happy life.
Well, I had heard such frivolities around, but I just said, "Hey, wait a second,
Yeah.
The horse
is outside. The horse needs it more."
Yeah, really. Come on. Okay, we can cuddle up. I can warm you up. And she really wasn't having that,
Yeah.
So I just felt that was so I felt that my first marriage was not helped by my being such an ardent horse lover.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I spent most of the time now when I started working at Central Islip.
Yeah,
I was actually
Central Islip.
What's that? Sorry.
How did you start teaching in Central Islip?
Well, that's another story. Okay.
Yeah.
I had been at St. John's University taking my undergraduate degree, my bachelor's degree, and Vietnam was starting to heat up.
Oh.
And now you have to understand too. I taught and trained at Stony Brook. I taught aspiring teachers of English at Stony Brook University. Okay. Mm-hmm. And also at St. Joseph's College, and they both hired me. St. Joseph's being the first one. Actually, no, I started at Stony Brook, but they wanted a teacher who, was used to teaching multicultural students, because most of the students on Long Island, as you know, are basically white, affluent towns. I mean, I grew up. Yeah. Oh, really? You didn't notice? No, I'm surprised. Well, look, I'm a perfect example. I went to school. I grew up in Half Hollow Hills. I went to the school, which is now called Half Hollow Hills East. Mm-hmm. At the time, I graduated in 1963. There was only one Half Hollow Hills. That was it. Mm-hmm. And that at the time was a 7 through 12 school. It was a junior, senior high school. Oh, wow. Then they built. Then I was the first. Our class was the first class that graduated from that new building, which was just high school only.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Now then they built a West Wing after it. Then they built a second school, and I observed when I was observing student teachers. For St. Joseph's and for Stony Brook, I wound up going back to those schools to observe. It was really a kick, especially at the high school, because then I could check out all the old spots where Betty Lou and I used to make out when we cut class.
I love her name, Betty Lou.
Yeah, well, I told you that's not her real name. I changed her real name to protect the not so innocent. She wasn't all that innocent.
Okay.
But so thank goodness for my my young teenage male thing that she wasn't all that innocent. She was great. I loved her. I really did. In fact, one of the favorite spots. This is a big secret. In that school, the old days, they had telephone booths.
Yeah.
Not just that telephone, and they had the accordion doors.
Yeah, yeah.
And they had them in a place by the theater, so then people watching a show they could make a call. Mm-hmm. So, but there was never like a teacher or monitors going down that particular part of the hallway.
Yeah.
So we cut class and we'd be making out in that telephone booth like for 45 minutes. Okay. It was the coolest thing ever.
Oh my God. I love it.
I have stories to tell, but anyway,
I love it.
So going back to why I got it. So I took, instead of my taking more courses in literature and English and stuff, I took 9 credits. Okay, when I was a senior at St. John's, because I said, I'll get an education degree, because I said, you know what, I had lots of reasons for that. I said, well, I could start getting an education, a license, whatever. Plus, I was supposed to be. I took an English degree at St. John's to be a lawyer. That's why I went. Had a very, very well-known night law school. And a lot of really big-time people took it. Like, for example, Mario Cuomo and all these politicians had gone to St. John's and they got their law degree.
Yeah.
So that's why I was there. Okay. And my mother was working for a big law firm, Javits and Javits, because the senator was Jacob Javits. He was very well known.
Yeah. Okay.
And she just felt, hey, she's always been working in law firms as office manager or whatever. And my mother could speak 3 or 4 different languages and write. She was really very bright, very talented. Yeah. So at any rate, she figured, well, okay, when you're out, I've got some connections, and maybe I get you help to get you a job. So anyway, I graduate, and I just said, you know what, because I was still into surfing, I took my graduation money about midway through the summer and said, Ma, Dad, I'm out of here. I'm going to Hawaii, never to return. I'm going to surf the big wave. And that's what I did.
My God.
I sublet my apartment. I sold my little Volkswagen. I filled half a duffel bag. I had only half a duffel bag full of clothing.
Wow.
I had a seersucker jacket that I rolled up and a pair of slacks. If I figured, well, I'm going to have to get it. Maybe you look for a job.
Yeah.
And I had my surfboard. Yeah. And that was it. I was gone.
Wow.
And my father said to me, I was gone 3 months. He said, your mother sobbed every night. Every night. Yeah. Plus, she was totally pissed off when she found out that I was going to become a teacher. That really set her off. Okay.
Oh, really?
Besides
going to Hawaii? Besides going to Hawaii?
Well, here's what happened. I wasn't going to teach in Hawaii. I didn't have enough credits. Mm-hmm. So I'm there and I'm surfing the heavies. I'm surfing, the Law Shore and all that kind of stuff. And what was very depressing was I could only get a job. I worked as the lobster shift from midnight to 7 o'clock or midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning at one of those big, gorgeous waterfront hotels on Waikiki Beach. Yeah, I was the freaking janitor. I used to vacuum the floors. I only did it for one night. I got so depressed. Okay, I said I can't do this. So I don't know how I scraped it. I scraped enough money to get by for 3 months, and then finally, my father has sent me a letter saying, "Hey, the draft awards made you 1A." I said, "Well, I don't have any money to go to fly home." Plus, I told him I'm not for the Vietnam War. I'm gonna go to Australia. I'm out of here. Okay? So, but to show you how dumb I still was in those days, I didn't have a passport.
Yeah.
So, and my father, who was a World War II vet, said, "There's no way you're getting your birth certificate to get a passport to leave the country." Okay, he was adamant. So he sends me money for the airfare. I look at it and go, wow, I could be here like another couple of months, And so what happens is I write him a letter and say, I don't know if I'm going to fly home so soon. And I said, screw the draft board. Yeah. Well, his letter, he sent me a letter, Linda, I swear to you, I could barely touch it because it was hot and steamy. I could swear that steam was coming out from under the envelope. He wrote me a barn burner of a letter, and I can't use all the curse words, but you little SOB, ungrateful.
You better get your ass back over here, basically, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what he said. Yeah. So I said, okay. My father was great. He never laid a hand on me. I mean, he was a wonderful, wonderful father. He did nothing but love me and my sister to death. He was great. Not many kids get the kind of father that we had. Okay,
no, not
it was all about us. It was all about us. Yeah. So anyway, so I come home. I go home, and so I wound up working at one of my mentors was this guy who had a surfboard factory. Oh. So I worked at his factory. I was the manager of the factory for a year, but I also had started graduate school. So I finished up my degrees to be a teacher at graduate. I was at Post. Yeah, and then I started looking for a job. And Central Islip, I had 2 interviews. One was at the Diocese of Rockville Center. That's another story. And then I laughed just thinking about it. And then Central Islip. And much to my shock, they hired me at Central Islip. And the biggest shock, and this is what I tell student teachers all the time, when you go into get a job at a school district, it's potluck. You could say, well, I want to teach seniors. Yeah, they'll flip you the bird and go, excuse me, you don't understand. Yeah. You're gonna teach what we need you to teach. Yeah. Okay. So, but I got lucky because they had a major resignation in the English department. Oh. They had about 21 members at the time, and half of them left. They resigned because in those days, first of all, you could get a job teaching any place. They were paying peanuts all over the country, but they left because they had an alcoholic English chair who was so obnoxious and so difficult. They said, either she goes or we go. Yeah. So they said, well, we're not firing her. Yeah. Okay. But we're going to, so they left about 9 or 10 of them left. Wow. So what happened was we had all these new young teachers. Okay. When I went in for the orientation, the first day of school, and it was shocking because I think there may have only been about a half a dozen teachers, older teachers that had been there for a long time. And so I luckily got the schedule of a master teacher, a teacher who had been there for like,
Really?
25 years.
Wow.
So I taught my first classes with seniors, an honors senior class, and then an honors regents class. And then I think I had one class of 10th grade non-regents who were, in those days, they would have called them sweat hogs or meatheads or whatever. And they were mostly, half of them were on parole from jail. So that was so I went from, so I would have to change my whole
teaching pattern, right?
Absolutely. And my
demeanor, everything.
Yeah, my vocabulary, the whole 9 yards, where I could have college level discussions with my honors seniors.
Yeah.
With the other guys, I had by the way, and those kids, my 10 honors, I loved them because they were who they were. Yeah. In other words, there was no pretense, no nothing, and you dealt with them. And of course, if you reached any of those kinds of kids, you were like, oh my God, that was really A, miraculous, and B, really productive, for them and for you. So that's how I got to Central Islip. But I used to tell my student teachers at Stony Brook, especially, because I would ask them, so why do you want to be a teacher? Remember, this would be teaching. And so they were all for English. So they'd say things to me like, well, I love literature, and I want to teach my students about the books that I love. And, and I said, oh, and I really love kids. Oh, really? Okay. I said, well, excuse me. Suppose the kids don't love you back. Suppose they don't like it. Suppose I think you're a total asshole moron, okay? And then they tell you your books suck, they're boring. Why would anybody read this stuff? Let's get a real life going here, okay? So now, and I said, so then I told them my story. I got into teaching for all the wrong reasons, okay? All the wrong reasons. Because I wasn't worried about, kids. Plus, I could take them or leave them, helping kids. What did I know? Okay. So I said, look, I got into teaching to legally avoid the draft, A, make money to go to law school, and thirdly, to maybe have another summer or two surfing my brains out between school years.
Yeah, and that's
so now, of course,
that's the real
yes.
story. Yeah.
And I'm looking at them. I could tell that their jaws have dropped. They're kind of semi-horrified.
They're like, "What? What did you do to us?"
But then I said, I did it. Started doing it, and God, after about a couple of months went by, I was loving it. I loved it. I was having a great time. Yeah. Kids were happy. Parents were happy. They would come in on open school night. Oh, it's the first time my kid ever talked about his English class and really loves it and And I had seniors that said, some mother said, the only reason why he goes to school is to go to your class. And I said, well, as long as he graduates, that's great. Okay. Yeah. So here's what I realized. For me, who had no interest in being a teacher whatsoever, it was a vocation. It called. The word vocation means it's an act of calling. It called to me like a priest feels called to live his life for God and stuff. Yeah, that's it. It was a vocation for me, and I never wavered. I loved it. I loved it. And Central Islip made it doubly more of a beautiful kind of a career because I dealt with not the kind of affluent, white, privileged kids that I grew up with, but these wonderful multicultural students, not unlike yourself. I had students like, and then when I started, Linda, this is another thing you guys probably didn't even realize. When I started, it was the majority was middle class, blue collar, like Irish mostly, Italians, Polish, and the percentage of blacks was only 12%, and Latinos was only 8%. Okay, when I retired in 2000, it was 37% Latino, 34% black, and the rest was white and significant other. When I say significant other, who was the coach? The soccer coach was in Newsday. His name will come back to me in a second. But anyway, and he said we have he was the soccer coach. We have only over 45 different nations represented in the hallways of the Central Islip High School. Wow. And he wasn't lying. He was not lying. Yeah. Okay? You name a language, you name a religion, we had it. And that's what made it it was like I had a worldly class. I'll never forget. It was like a mini world. It was like a mini UN meeting. I had a Japanese girl, Chinese girl. In fact, I think the Chinese girl was your sister at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Probably.
I always call her Li Ming. You know that. Once she
Yeah.
told me, I said, "That's it. You're Li Ming." You know,
Yeah.
because I wanted people to understand. You know, honor your culture, honor your background, and I did. Right. But I had Indian students. I had I had a couple
Every race. It was like a melting pot.
It was a melting pot. I mean, it was great. It was great. I loved it. Plus, my background in not only literature but philosophy and theology, I had so many things to talk about with that group.
Yeah,
that all related to the serious literature.
Like everybody's head.
Yeah, that was great. It was great. So that's how I got into where I got into. Now, you can ask me any question. Notice you can ask me a question. I'm good for like 10 minutes. I mean, come on. I mean, good.
Yeah, I know. It's so. I mean, like, I was so honored that you had my sister.
Right.
And when you knew that she had, me, like as a freshman, you're like, oh well, she has to be in my class.
Absolutely.
And I always told my sister, I was like, well, I'm not an honor student. Like, I'm an artist. Like, I'm not an honor student. I'm bad at math. I'm bad, And you're like, no, you're gonna be in this class. Like, I don't care. Like, you're gonna figure it out. I'm like, okay, I'll try my best. I'll try my best, and And it was life changing to be in your class. Like,
that's great to know. It's great to know. I'm going to tell you something. Now, I was also known as being. Remember, I came out of a Catholic university, and I always tell people that you graduate from a Catholic university like St. John's or Villanova or Fordham, you either come out really more devout Catholic than ever before, or an out and out raving, screaming atheist. Okay. So that's how I came out. I was like saying, are you kidding me? I read all the saints. I read Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas, and I go, these guys are schizophrenic. Why would I listen to them? Because they're nut job. They're living in some kind of bizarre scholastic bubble. Okay, so forget that.
You just questioned everything after that.
And that was my motto with students. Question everything and everybody, and that includes me. Yeah. Because I could be wrong. Rarely, but I could be wrong. I could also be lying to you for whatever personal or political agenda that I might have. Question everybody, everything, including me. And I used to have some of the best theological conversations in Central Islip, especially when I had a lot of kids that had children of ministers. Oh, that was hysterical.
Oh, that must have been fun for you.
It was fun. It was fun. And I said, and here's what you guys get from me. You're learning to hone your arguments so that when you meet another atheist, you're going to have to be able to know how to defend your position. Yeah. And I'm going to give you that practice.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. It's a luxury for you guys. And by the way, the religious people, I remember the pastor of the White Baptist Church. I had both of his daughters, okay, over a period of time. Okay, he invited me to his home to dinner with his lovely wife, and but he loved the idea that I was openly, an atheist, and also that his daughters could, cross swords with me and go back and forth. And I had a lot of that. A lot of parents who were really religious who were very happy to have me as their kid's teacher. So that was good. It was good.
Sorry, I'm just texting. Someone just called me, so I'm just telling them I'm on a call.
Okay. So do what you got to do.
My phone. Zoom.
So
I thought I put it on mute, but
no.
So tell me about any obstacles that you had to go through to be able to get where you are.
I have to tell you, Linda, I've always felt that that my life has almost been too easy.
Really?
Okay? Yeah. I did have some problems with my mother for about a year. She caused me some real grief. And then also I started to realize that she was starting to unravel. She wasn't the person she used to be.
Oh.
And so that was a problem. Okay. And, but I have to say she was like the perfect mother till I reached puberty. And then she got crazy because she said, well, not only as a pubescent. Okay. Oops.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So sorry. Like, I don't know why these things are happening.
Because that's, believe me, I'm surprised my phone isn't ringing as it is. But anyway, as a young pubescent, teenager, I kind of said, well, gee, I kind of like girls, And then worse for my mother was girls liked me. So all of a sudden, now she's worried that I was going to get some girl pregnant, or some girl was going to have me get her pregnant. Okay. And all of a sudden my college education would never happen. And for my mother, she had a free scholarship, total, everything paid at Hunter College. And she couldn't do it because her mother was dying. And so she had to take care of the mother. She was she was raising her younger siblings. And she always had a lot of hostility, resentment, blah, blah, blah. And anytime, by the way, when she met Betty Lou and saw how serious we were, and she knew we were sexually active, she really went off the edge, my mother. No question about it. So probably that was the roughest year I ever, roughest year, 2 years.
Maybe because she was also like losing control, because now you're,
Well, yeah, because, I always had a mind of my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, hey, look, you taught me how to be a decent human being, but as long as I'm not hurting anybody, I have a right to be who I want to be. And this is what I used to teach kids, is that, hey, you have a right to be who you want to be. As long as you're not hurting anybody, and you also don't want to hurt yourself with drugs, alcohol, stupidity like that.
Yeah.
Then you can make the choices in your life. I never drank. I never smoked. Okay. Although I did feel that lots of sex was very healthy and good, as long as you didn't get anybody pregnant or infect them with some disease.
And you're protected, and no one's getting pregnant, then you're good.
Yeah. Well, also in my time, you didn't have all kinds of bizarre STDs. You didn't have AIDS. You didn't have all kinds of stuff. Okay. Yeah. And so it was a very, very, very much. And then when the pill came out, I think the pill came out in 1963, 64, around there, young women got more aggressive than men. I am telling you, I could tell you stories that even I don't believe, and I experienced.
Really?
Unbelievable. Because all of a sudden women would say, hey, I don't have to worry about getting pregnant, number one. Yeah. And you know what? And women, here's what Betty Lou taught me when we were in our late teens, that women sexually, they had the same level of sexual desire, if not more, than men do. Their problem was discretion, because they didn't want all of a sudden people to find out that they were sexually active and loved it, because then, of course, everybody would call their names. They would call them names. Yeah. You know all the names, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like guys will be, they'll get a pat on the back, but then the girl would be like,
oh, yeah. I was like, hey. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I was one of those guys who was like, oh, hey, right on, brother, keep on doing it, but I have to say that one of the things I used to try to instill in young people, my students, is that yes, sex was supposed to feel good, and you were supposed to want to have sex, but you also have to understand that you're living in a civilization and in a culture, and you have to be discreet, and you have to be careful. Mm-hmm. You have to be, you just can't. We're not apes in the jungle. We're primates, but we got to be a little more civilized than the average chimpanzee or bonobo chimp, whatever. So I think that's one of the goals. One of the goals is to teach. It's like I'm a big fan of talking about sex in schools, because parents. This is the other great lie. Parents say, "Well, we should be teaching our kids sex education, and not their teachers." Blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, you hypocritical lying weasels. These are parents I'm talking about. Because by the time they decide to give their kids the facts of life talk, the kids have already been getting laid. They've been sexually active. If you're sitting down with your kid at 15,
it's too late.
It's too late. Absolutely too late. Yeah. Okay? So, my father, I'll never forget it. My father he decides to take a day off. He never took off a day in his life. He used to work at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Yeah. Decides to take me fishing, because I like to go fishing. And my father was not a fisherman. Okay? Yeah. But he knew I would figure he'll take me snapper fishing. So, all right. So we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I seem to remember that maybe I had my permit. Maybe I was 16 even. Okay. And I could tell he's really feeling uncomfortable. And he's kind of, twitching.
He's going to have to talk with you.
That's exactly right. So, and in fact, I know I was behind the steering wheel when he did it. I had to be just like a young 16.
Yeah.
Okay. And he said, well, your mother thinks I really should have to talk, have a talk with you about sex. I started to giggle. Right? So
you're like, you don't know what I'm doing.
I said, Pop, I'm like, I just turned 16. I mean, don't you think it's a little behind the curve?
Yeah.
He said, well, blah, 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 blah. Now, of course, I was a big reader. I read all kinds of stuff about sex from the time I was like 12, okay, 13.
Oh, okay, all right.
I knew all the big words too, okay? Fellatio, cunnilingus, all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he starts. So he's asking me these questions. Well, you know about this? And I thought, oh yeah, no, yeah. He said a word. I said, well, Dad, they actually, it's the nicer word is fellatio, but you said blowjob, but I think fellatio might be better. And so he asked me a couple of more questions, and then he goes, you know what?
Forget
He
it.
said, you more know than I do. You better tell me stuff. I said, well, Pop, I read a lot more than you.
Oh my God!
But I never forgot that, because when parents would to pull the high and mighty thing, well, I'm their parent, I know my kid, well, they weren't doing that job. They weren't doing that job, and so it's left to guys like me, unfortunately, because one of the rules I would always tell students, and you may remember this, I will never lie to you. I'll always tell you the truth about any question you ask me, except A, if you're homicidal and want to hurt somebody, or suicidal and want to hurt yourself. I won't keep those secrets. No, I'll keep your secrets. I won't tell your parents, whatever. But those two things, sorry, I am now morally, for myself, enjoined, but also legally enjoined to tell somebody else that, hey, this kid is going to want to kill somebody or himself, right? But I would always do that. The kids would ask me questions and why? Because they knew that they didn't want to ask their parents. They were either embarrassed or
they were going to get the truth from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of my thing. I had this. These were my special weapons, my special gifts to kids, because I was probably too dumb to worry about what parents would think. I just have these kids in front of me who look like they need help or they want information, and giving information was my job.
Yeah, like one of the best advice you had given me was, I think when I was graduating, I was a senior, and at that point, my parents had asked me, "We don't have enough money to send you to college. Can you wait a year to go to college?"
Right.
And you said to me, "No, like they've already lived their life. Like you have to go to college. You got to go. Like you have to live your life." So I've always remembered that. I'm like, okay, you're right. I should.
So how did you get the money to go?
I just took loans.
But one of the reasons why I said that, Linda, and this is true. I had this conversation with a lot of kids over the years, and even my stepson's girls, who I love. They're just great girls. But one of the things that happens, and I know it happened even with me, had gotten my master's degree and everything else. But then, as a teacher, what happened was the union made better contracts, and they said, well, look, we're going to have it so that if you get X amount of credit, if you get 15 credits every so often, you'll get a raise, right? So I had to go back. So in the time, the maximum was a master's degree plus 60. So I already had my master's degree. So that meant I had to get 60 credits, right? And it took me, I went to school nights, weekends with some of my colleagues, okay, until I got my 60 credits. And I was married to my present wife, Ronnie. And I hated it. Okay? Because once you lose the momentum of your being at school all the time, and you're out there living a life, I was, at that point, my horse was gone, but I was fishing and boating, had my captain's license, stuff like that. It really hurt me to spend my weekends in a classroom.
Because it wasn't enjoyable, right? Because you're already in your life, Yeah.
So, and I remembered that the key word there was, or phrase was, loss of momentum. Young people, I'm always afraid that if they don't go on to college, or also same thing with graduate school to get the degree, go on for that master's right away, because you're going to lose your momentum, your motivation to do it. Okay, and that's a killer. That's a killer. So gee, I'm glad you told me that.
No, I mean, that literally changed my life, because I was really on the fence, and I really felt bad for my family that they didn't have enough money to send me. So I didn't know what to do. I'm like, okay, well, I can probably wait. Help them at the restaurant. They can't send me. But then your advice sent me to school. I was like, no, I can't do it. I'll just take out all the.
Well, hey, this makes the whole podcast for me that you told me that. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
You know, by the way, Linda, I have to tell you, now at my age, and I'm no longer in the classroom, you know, every time I get something like that, which is a positive, it's a real boost that says, well, maybe I didn't waste my whole life. Teacher,
not at all. Not at all. No, it changed the trajectory of my life. Because who knows if I had just stayed.
Excuse me, that's my...
That's yours now. That's okay.
Who? I don't know who that is. Okay, so...
from Johnson Angela.
Don't know who that is. That's a
car warranty.
No. Yeah, it's one of those. This is one of those BS calls. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know any Angela Johnsons. All right. But there was something else I was going to say to you. You know, when I talked about, you know, I really had no intention of becoming a teacher, and I became a teacher for all the wrong reasons. What I also told my aspiring teachers at the universities was that, and this was the important part, really, my students, from my first year especially, the other years afterwards, they just reinforced it. My students made a man out of me. Okay,
that's amazing.
Yeah, they made a real live man out of me. Because I'm going into it.
You become like their father. You know, you become
or their older brother, whatever. Yeah, but my point was, I'm thinking, hey, I want to surf. I want to ride my horse. Blah 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 blah. I'm just a superficial surf dude. You know, what I want to do is I'm hedonistic. I want to, lie on the beach and get a tan and chase women, chase waves, ride horses. You know, I had no pretensions toward being like a role model for anybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, I'm thinking, hey, right, Joe surf dude, okay, hedonist, atheist. You know, I'm every parent's worst nightmare as a role model for their kids. You know. So, but my students kind of over the period of that year, they told me mostly indirectly, and they showed me what it is they needed for me to be for them.
Oh,
okay. So, and I slowly realized, my God, they have needs, they have expectations of me, which I never had for myself. I just wanted a job to stay out of the draft, get out of the cold, whatever. Yeah. And so, but all of a sudden, I started to realize that oh my God, they need somebody to talk to, someone they could trust, someone to give them guidance because they weren't getting it from anybody else and anyplace else.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I went, and then, of course, by the end of the school year, I went home for the summer, and all summer long, I'm thinking, what the hell? I mean, I'm a role model now. I mean, what are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It was like it was
what is happening?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it was ennobling, I think. I just said, oh my God, I can't be the superficial guy anymore. I have to really be careful. It's like
having a baby.
Yeah, really? I'm telling you, Linda, it was crazy. I was crazed. All right. But I'm so thankful to my students then and all the way through my career because they reminded me what my job is supposed to be, you know? And this was a conversation I've been having a lot with people, especially at the library, because all these anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers and all this crap.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to people, when you teach other people's children, you're a teacher, your first obligation is not to educate them. Okay? It's your second obligation. Your first obligation is to be concerned about their health and welfare, their safety, their security. That's why, for example, we go in and hey, you see a kid is sick, you got to get him to the nurse. Kid's malnourished, you help to feed them. In other words, we at Central Islip, they had a whole thing. Kids came without coats in the winter. They had coats to give them, sneakers. I mean, we got to take care of these kids. Okay, there was sometimes poorly parented or underparented or non-parented, sometimes a lot of our kids. Other kids were fine. They had, good solid parents, good solid grandparents.
Yeah.
I said, but so first you had to take care of that. You can't educate kids who are depressed, malnourished, sick, scared. You stay out in the hall so the kids don't get bullied and that they don't get hurt. Those things are first. And then when all of that, once you walk into the room and everything's cool, now you have the not only the obligation, but the luxury of educating them.
See, I don't think a lot of teachers think that way. right?
No, they really don't. They really don't. That's why I was teaching it to them at the universities.
Because that's the missing human element that a lot of teachers and people are not realizing.
No, not at all. And I think that it's sad, you know, it's sad, but I think that I remember you would always hear teachers like saying, well, about discipline. Well, I'm not a policeman, you know, I'm not this, I'm not that, or I'm not a nurse, I'm just a math teacher. Well, no, you can't say that.
No,
you just can't say you're just a math teacher, okay? Yeah. You got kids in your class. I'll give you another story. I can't use names. I had a student, young black girl, she was in my honors and my AP class. Mm-hmm. So I had an AP class at that particular year. It was like 6th or 7th period. It was late in the day. Mm-hmm. So, okay, she walks in, and she's got a black eye.
Oh, no.
A black eye.
Yeah.
So I said to her, excuse me, did you, I said, how did you get the black eye?
Yeah, like, are you okay?
Yeah. She says, well, my father punched me last night. Punched me, okay?
Oh, my God.
Now, so I said to her, well, did you just come to school now? She goes, no, I was here at the normal time. You went to all your classes? She said, yeah. And none of the other teachers asked you about the black eye? She said, no. I went crazy. I went ballistic, okay? Not that I'm such a great guy. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is you have a girl.
Yeah.
She was, I guess, 17, maybe 18 at the time. She was a senior. She comes in with a black eye, and you don't even ask her how she got it?
Yeah.
She could have said, I ran into a door, whatever. I tripped down the stairs. But what she said about her father, okay, because she wanted somebody to know. Yeah. Now, I think she may have even been 18, because a lot of times I had students who would be 18, and they said, well, you can't call Child Protective Services or the police because I'm an adult.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
And I would say, but I was always crazed when they would say that to me. But I said, look, you are an adult. As long as you say to me you're safe, and I said to them, well, you think he'll hurt you any more than what he just did? No, I don't think so. He gets drunk and blah, 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 and that's when he hit me. Okay, So I said, okay, look, you're gonna have to go to the nurse's office. So, so I said, but you know what? And I've learned too. I said, okay, wait till after class, and I'm going to take you down there myself. I escorted her to that. But you know why? Because some kids will say, well, nah, I don't want to do this. And they'll run off. They won't go to the nurse.
Yeah.
You see?
They're like, it's fine. I'll just continue on.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I knew that from that. And I met the father, by the way, afterwards. He came
you did?
Well, yeah, he came to an open school night. For some reason, I met him, and he gave me the fish eye,
Oh.
Because he knew he must have gotten in some trouble. But the girl was grateful, and she also had a younger sister who I was worried about.
Yeah,
that's another thing. So, for example, if I knew, like with you guys, I had Li Ming, and then all of a sudden, and then of course I knew about you, and I'm saying, well, okay, when I knew they had siblings in the building, I wanted to make sure, well, okay, I'll keep an eye out for them, So it's one of those things where, but a lot of teachers don't want to get involved. You see. That's another problem.
And they also probably thought like, oh, well, she just probably got into a fight with another student,
Yeah. They didn't question it. And I think and that's one of the things I used to try to instill in my aspiring teachers, And I started to realize that once a student taught, they started to realize, oh my God, he wasn't kidding around. They started to realize people don't realize how tough it is to teach. It really is difficult, especially if you don't have a talent for it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't have a personality for it.
Yeah, you need a personality for it. You also need like people skills to be able to communicate. And you had psychology that you had studied too, so that helped too. And plus, you're just real. Like there's no like huge ego with you. You're just who you are. Take it or leave it. This is who I am. I'm going to tell you how I feel and my thoughts on it. You can tell me yours, and we can just have an intellectual conversation about it with no like anger or like, animosity or anything like that.
Well, you know what it was too? I would explain the lot. So let's say, whatever the topic was, I would say to them, look, I took one of the courses they don't teach in high school, and I don't even teach in college half the time, but because I took philosophy and theology, I had to take a course in logic. Okay. That was in philosophy. That was one of the toughest courses I ever took. When I tell you logic, is a tough course. When you start to go, there's a whole bunch of rules and starting with the ancient Greeks. Anyway, but I used to try to say, I would say, look, I don't care what you believe. I just want to know why you believe it, how you got to that conclusion.
Yeah, what are the facts?
Why you believe it. I said, I don't want to hear what your rabbi said. I don't want to hear what your priest said. I don't want to hear what your mother said.
Yeah.
How did you get to that conclusion?
Yeah.
Okay? And now I want you to explain it to me. And here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to explain. I'm going to tell you why. This is my conclusion. Let me show you how I arrived at that conclusion. And I point out all the things that I said, all the comments.
It's the lawyer in you.
That?
It's the lawyer in you.
Yeah, probably. You're absolutely right about that.
Give me some evidence. Give me some paperwork. Give me, you know.
And in fact, my wife noticed that. She always said to me, you always go, well, A, B, C. So I'm going down this list, right?
Exactly. That's the lawyer. That's the lawyer.
Yeah. So then I would have, especially when I had these theological discussions, I had a couple of kids, and you probably, I don't know if you know them now, but I don't want to mention names. But anyway, but I would say, oh, here's why I believe that God doesn't exist. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I give them all this. Okay. Here's how I got to my conclusion. Prove me wrong if you can. And then you can say to me, what's the logic that's gotten you to your conclusion that you do believe in God? Okay?
Yeah.
We had, and by the way, I do that every year because my literature required that. Okay, it was always related to the literature, and we had the most adult, intellectual, profound discussions, conversations. And by the way, I didn't have really discussions in my class. I had conversations. In other words, like I was saying to one of my former students who's now in his mid-40s teaching at Central Islip. And he said to me, well, you used to do this thing with the 3 Ps. He goes, what was all that?
Jordan Turk?
Oh, you know? I said, oh, you know Jordan. Of course you know Jordan. Yes.
I was like, let me guess who it is. Jordan Turk.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Since you mentioned his name. But I reminded him of that. What I also did was that I would call the students by their last names. So you would have been Ms. Chung. Okay, and he would have been Mr. Turk. And why did I do that? Well, first of all, at the university at St. John's, we were always called by our last names. That was number one. And what they were saying is, you're adults now, and we're respecting you and treating you as adults. So I would say to the students, the high school students, here are the 3 Ps, punctuality, productivity, and politeness, right? I ended on politeness, and I said, and I'm going to give you the first gesture of my respect for you. I'm going to call you by your last names. Okay, and they would moan because they were so used to being called by their first names. They thought it was a bad thing. I said, no, you don't seem to understand. I said, under the rules or the traditions of etiquette, if you have to call me by my last name, Mr. Schiavo, and I can call you by your first name, we are not on equal footing. And lots of schools and lots of teachers, that's exactly, they don't want you to be equal. They want to be able to look down at you, and they want you to look up to them. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, we're going to, under the rules of etiquette, the modes of etiquette, we're going to be equals. So you're going to have to call me by my last name, and I'm going to call you by your last names. And on that level, we're equal. I said, we're not equal. I want you to understand. I'm older than you. I'm better educated than you are. I'm smarter than you. And by the way, I am much better looking than you. Okay? I mean, really, you're just like us. And they'd all start to laugh. Like, see how you're laughing?
Yeah.
They would laugh.
Laughter. You probably grab people with like the laughter and jokes too.
Absolutely.
You get their attention.
Absolutely. And when I did it was so funny, and I was telling it to Jordan the other day, I had spoken to him on the phone. I said, here's what I noticed. The very next day, kids would come into the room. So let's say you were sitting in the class, you got there early, and then Jordan came in. Here's what would happen. He'd walk in and he'd say to you, oh, good morning, Ms. Chung. And then you'd respond, oh, good morning, Mr. Turk. They started doing it among themselves, and they would giggle and laugh, but then they got used to it. Okay. And here's what the ultimate thing was. I never had people fighting in my classroom. Okay. I didn't have discipline problems in my classroom. And it even worked with the younger class people, even when they were, let's say, non-honor students. It was a human thing. It was societal kind of personal civilized thing.
Yeah.
And it's these simple little things that if you do them the first day or week of class, it makes everybody's life a lot easier. And what you're saying to young people, I respect you as a person, but I respect your opinions and your intellect. Well, let me change that. I respect your intellect. I used to have to tell certain kids, you know what? I have to tolerate, I'm a free speech guy, your opinions.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't have to respect them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In other words, I don't respect people's opinions if they're stupid. Like the thing with the anti-mask crowd, no. They're willfully ignorant or absurdly stupid. I have no respect for their opinion. Mm-hmm. I will tolerate their opinions, okay, unless they're aggressive, unless they're, but I don't have any respect for their opinion because they're obviously stupid, okay? So, and even if they're educated, they're willfully ignorant. They've chosen to believe horse shit.
Yeah.
Or in this case, horse medicine. I had a horse. This ivermectin is really to deworm horses and cows. And I was explaining to my library director how they used to do it. They'd take a big rubber tube. Yeah. And they put it up the horse's nostril, one nostril, up the nostril, and then down into his throat. And then the other, and then it would wind up in the horse's stomach. Yeah, it was. And then the veterinarian would take like a bulb thingy, squeezy, and he'd squeeze the poison into the horse's stomach because it was supposed to kill the worms. Okay, it doesn't kill. It's not an antiviral. It doesn't kill viruses. Okay, it kills worms. Yeah. And now a lot of course people would learn to do it themselves, but if you got the tube in the wrong spot and you push that ivermectin, the horse would drop dead in an instant.
Really?
Yeah, it's poison. Okay.
Oh my God.
So these nitwits are all of a sudden some right-wing loony radio guy says, "Oh, ivermectin, no, it's going to be great." And I'm thinking, well, wait a second. Why would you take a poison? Yeah, poisonous to human, and you won't take a vaccine, which is not going to kill you. Okay. And I'm from the generation, we took vaccines for everything, starting with the polio vaccine, mumps, measles, whatever. And you would have been a parent that would want to imprison you for not having your kids vaccinated. Yeah. You'd have been an unfit parent. So we're living in a very strange society now, Linda, really very strange.
It is.
But that's Captain Willy's opinion, and he's sticking to
it. So listen, we're up to like the time where we have to wrap it up, but I would just want to say thank you so much, and we definitely need to do this more often, and we'll pick a topic and we'll
whatever. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on in the first place. Okay, I thought it was very, very kind of you, and I really am grateful for it, flattered by it, and I just love seeing your face again. Oh, it's been a while. I haven't seen you since that reunion party.
Yeah, that was 2014, I think it was.
Wow, that long ago? And this is another scary thing, too, Linda. Scary that, they say that when one gets older, time goes faster.
It does.
I just turned 76 last month. It was actually the end of June. Mm-hmm. And it's like they always say, well, your life is all of a sudden before you know it, it's over. And of course, we have to do this more often before I croak. So
yeah, I have to get all of your knowledge and tidbits and mental.
Oh, you are sweet to say that.
I want to extract them out of you because I think a lot of people need to hear your stories.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Now, let me ask you a question, though. But these podcasts, who's listening to these? Who's going to see these?
Well, right now I'm putting them on YouTube, and then I'm going to put them on Instagram, and I put them on Facebook.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah.
So I edit them. So I'm learning how to edit them myself on iMovie. So I was like, I might as well teach myself how to do it.
How very cool of you. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Good for you. Good for you. Well, I have a blog, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, your blog. So tell me a little bit about that. Like what's...
Well, right now I don't even remember how to get to the blog because I haven't written since March. Okay. Because what happened was, in fact, one of my students from college just had a baby, and she said, "Hey, I was really enjoying reading your blog and stuff, but you haven't done anything since March." Well, what happened was the pandemic started to ease up, and then all of a sudden life got busy, beep, beep, beep. And but I'm going to have to go back to it because if I know people are, and again, like I have a thing about anti-religion, which some of the religious former students of mine read, because they weren't happy about that. But I have stuff about I have about something with my horse, and I did one on surfing, and I did one on Betty Lou, and so there are like different things, and but I had a lot of them. A couple of them were about teaching because a lot of young people some of my former college students, I felt would want to hear some of that or read some of that.
So yeah, like everything that you're talking about in your blogs, we can have a podcast and have a conversation about it. Like,
well, here's the thing.
It could be like 30-minute little conversations.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Again, with the exception of the fourth Tuesday of every month when I have my library board meetings, I'm pretty much wide open now. We traveled internationally twice a year for 35 years or so. Mm-hmm. So, right now, and we've decided we don't want to travel anymore, mostly because this is before the pandemic, and mostly because we'd been every place we wanted to be. Yeah. And then I had a stroke. I had to cancel one trip. And then we finally said, you know what, we're done.
When did you have a stroke?
Back almost 3 years ago. I was 73.
Oh, wow.
At a cerebellar stroke. And the good news is, knock on wood, I was miserable. I was nauseous and dizzy for like 3 or 4 months.
Oh.
But I had no loss of memory, no paralysis of any kind. And of course, people were very unhappy that I could still speak. So it's like, you never shut up. So I said, okay, fine. I said, but now here's my thing about speech, talking before we leave. Mm-hmm. I used to always say to people, when they complain about you talk so much. I said, well, yeah, but I like to think I'm informative and interesting and entertaining, especially entertaining, because if I'm going to talk to anybody, any group, like we were talking about students, you want to be able to entertain them as well as inform them. I said, but here's the thing. But here's the phrase you have to know. They often used to talk about dumb animals, but the word dumb doesn't mean stupid. It meant mute, M-U-T-E. It meant silent. They could not speak. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying to myself, well, wait a second. I'm not an animal. Mm-hmm. What makes me human is my ability to speak. One of the things that makes me human is my ability to speak and also laugh.
Yeah.
And guess what? So if I'm not speaking, I might as well be a giraffe or dead. Number 2. So I'm speaking whenever I can because it reaffirms the fact that I'm on the planet.
Yes.
Okay, I'm still alive, and I am not stupid, and I have things to say. And before I croak, I want to say them.
You do, and I think you should do them on this Art and Hustle Galileo Conversations with me.
I would, truthfully, since I have so little left to do anymore. I'll do it as much as you want. Really.
Yeah,
seriously.
I think it's great. I love hearing your stories. And if you have stories to tell me, I am here to listen to them.
Oh, I could tell you surf stories. I could tell you Betty Lou stories. Yes. I could tell you horse stories.
I love
fishing stories. I got stories. Let me tell you.
I love it. Thank you so much. And let's schedule another time. We'll do this real soon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I just have enjoyed this so much.
Thank you so much. It's great seeing you.
See you. Take care, babe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.